Welcome to the Josh Huisman Podcast.
Welcome to the podcast, everybody. Thank you so much for listening, for watching, wherever you are consuming this content. I appreciate you being a part of the show, and if you would share it with friends and family, that would be wonderful. And this would be the perfect episode to share with friends and family because you are about to meet one of the, if not the most inspirational person I know. Her name is Erica Tambrini, and she is a friend. She is a relative. She is the cousin of my wife, Sarah. This girl was dancing it up at my wedding back in August 2000, having a great time. And I want to just first off, thank you, Erica, for coming on here and being a part of the show. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I am having a great day. It's been sunny the last couple days. In Nashville, it rains a lot. And so the fact that we've had some sun now the last couple days makes me feel a lot better about life.
Right. Seriously. Yeah. It's been hot here.
Do you guys have cicadas up by you?
They're coming. They're just started. Yeah.
All right. We're in full cicada season, and it is out of control. I was cutting the grass, and they like noise, and so they fly up and hang on you, and it's out of control.
Oh, this is awful.
So I
don't like them.
You have a lot to look forward to. Okay, so let's jump into your story, because a lot of those who are going to be watching this, listening to this, have not heard of you before, aren't familiar with your story, and let me just say, so you on Facebook, you recently made this post, and I want to share it with the audience so that we can get a little bit of a background, and then let's dive a little deeper into the story. All right. So you posted this on May 11th and said, May 11th is not my favorite memory. It's now been 19 years since I got sick, but this year marks living just as long as an amputee as, quote unquote, able-bodied. It takes a village for anyone, and I've got a great one. And you have a picture here with your husband, Luke Tambrini, and your two kids, Lily and Michael. And you also have a picture of the day you came out of was this the day you came out of the hospital, or?
Yeah, well, discharged from rehab.
Discharged from rehab. And so 19 years ago, why don't we just rewind? Let's go back to the beginning of the story. You're at the University of Illinois. It's the end of your freshman year. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was finals week.
Finals week of your freshman year. And what took place on that morning?
So I had actually just come back from, I believe it was that weekend that I surprised my mom and came home for Mother's Day. And then I went back to school, and I was studying for my Calc 2 final that day. And I know we also went to the pool that day, because I don't think I had a test. It was a Monday. I don't think I had a test that day. So I woke up feeling off, but nothing that you would go to the ER for. You know, you're like, oh, coming down with something. I was extremely run down, stressed out from all my classes and studying. And as the day progressed, it just got progressively worse, but still nothing that you would think. I thought I had like a stomach virus or the flu. But then as we got into the evening hours, I remember I fell asleep just like, I pretty much face planted just on my books in my dorm room because I was so tired and just felt awful. I'm sure I had a high fever, never took my temperature. And then as the night came into be, I could not stop throwing up. And I remember that my stomach hurt so bad and I couldn't get out of this hunched over position. And then I looked on my body and I saw purple spots all over. And that's when I was like, I'm terrified. I don't know what's happening. Mm-hmm. My roommate, what she was up, I still can't understand how she didn't get sick, because that's another part. There is a vaccine. But then I went around, our dorm was like a quad shaped, and there was like an L of girls and then an L of guys. So I went around the corner to some of my girlfriends that were around the corner. And for some reason they were awake. It was like 2-3 in the morning. And so we called the dial-a-nurse. And I'm pretty sure that they said, get her to the hospital right away. And thankfully, one of my friends, her older brother had gone to U of I. So there's 2 hospitals in Champaign. And my friend took me to the one that was a level 1 trauma center. and they took me right away into the hospital. Still at this point, hunched over, couldn't stand up straight. It hurt so bad. And they took me right away in the emergency room. They did a spinal tap. And I also remember talking on the phone to my mom and dad, and a doctor who was actually a pediatrician came down and checked on me because my dad used to have them insured when they were in our area. And so he was like, I know your parents, we're going to take care of you. And that's really all I remember, because then they put me under.
Yeah. When they put you under, I mean, had you kind of started to lose consciousness before you even got to that point? I mean, you had been throwing up and progressively getting worse as it went on. But that was your last memory, was talking to mom and dad, basically?
Yeah. Yeah. I still didn't know what I had. And I came to find out much later on that the doctor who had just came on his shift, I believe this is what I was told. The doctor who just came on his shift has seen this before, being on a university campus. And he predicted exactly what amputations I was going to have. So it's just like wild. But, those doctors that came on their shift, they worked incredibly hard and are the ones, that I'm, responsible for doing everything that, and they took action right away. Yeah. Because they've seen it before.
So they put you under into a kind of a self-induced coma yeah. And, as it went into those early morning hours, we were just talking before we went on here, my memory of this, I was working as a youth pastor in South Holland at that time. And of course you're at Illinois in your freshman year. And I do remember little things because, this is a moment in, I know, how obviously monumental this is in your life and what took place in your life. But for the family as well, all of us who know your story, it's also kind of a moment in time that is kind of ingrained into our minds. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I vividly remember where I was and what took place when I first heard the news that what you were going through. And I even remember that week after the fact of your mom even, calling, Sarah. Sarah's all connected to the family. She loves talking to everybody. And even, hey, Erica's really stressed out about finals. She's, a lot of pressure, whatever, just be praying for her. And, as we're coming up on the end of the year. And then I was at work on that morning. I was walking by the church office and I had a phone call, and it was Sarah, and she's crying. Yeah. And she says, be praying for Erica right now. It's really bad. She has bacterial meningitis. And I didn't even know what that was.
I didn't either.
And so I went to the computer and I Google searched it. And in every case, whether you have a hangnail or a real issue, Google is going to tell you you're going to die. So I Googled bacterial meningitis and my heart sank because how terrifying that you were going through this. And so that was just kind of that, first hearing that news and understanding. And then when you, like you said, when the doctor who predicted, here's all the things that are going to happen, it basically became reading through a list of horrifying things. And so have your parents ever talked to you about what they were feeling or experiencing when they heard this news?
Not really. I know that my mom kept a journal that she never opened again. And my dad just has the mindset of like, we're just going to do what we got to do. We're going to get through it. He's just like, just like we're going to do it. We got to do what we got to do. Like, not making it is not an option is kind of how my dad is,
And they were, and they were such rocks during that time of obviously the emotion of seeing what their daughter was going through. At this point, you're in the hospital bed, you're in this coma, and, they're treating you. And what was so interesting was my understanding of the time, and I'm curious if you are familiar with this now, when they started giving you the medicines and taking care of you, the meningitis itself was killed pretty much right away, but the damage had been done.
Yeah. It was because it leads to sepsis, and the sepsis is when it gets into your bloodstream, that's the aftermath that causes like the loss of circulation and all that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so, from what I recall, so you're in this hospital down in Champaign, and at this point, your parents were calling upon people to be praying. And it's interesting how, whether it's doctors or nurses or pastors or friends, whatever it may be, everybody starts to fall into, this is just my take on it now. Okay. So this is where I can share some things, because at this point, you're in the bed, you're going to ultimately be in a coma for about how long?
I think it was 7 weeks.
Yeah. 7 weeks, right? 2 months about is what I remember. So 7 weeks. And some people come along and their counsel is pretty dire. Some are saying there's no hope. Some are saying keep hope. And this is across the board, whether it's doctors, nurses, pastors, friends. Some are saying just let her go. Some are saying keep praying. And I know specifically for us, we were definitely in a place where, coming to visit and to see you, that we wanted to surround you in prayer and whatever we could to be asking the Lord for your healing. We were praying 100% for your complete healing across the board, and that everything was going to be good. And I do remember, I will just say this, without giving away too many details, I do remember your mom saying, we need some prayer warriors to get up here because some of the prayers have been pretty down. And there was a need to go, we want Erica, Lord, let Erica live and go on. And so anyway, I know the pastors in the church where I was serving, they came, and my parents even came. I don't know if you know that, and prayed over you. And so again, I know you probably can't share too much in this, but has anyone, in the 19 years of follow, shared this part of the story with you?
I mean, I knew that people were doing that just because I've come across so many people say that I know, and we prayed for you. My church prayed for you. I've had that a lot of times over the years. I know it was really hard. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, my sister, Jamie, when I first got home, I mean, I couldn't even let her see me struggle because she would just run down the hall and bawl her eyes out. So, there was kind of that element of it. But I mean, I just know from what people tell me that they just prayed so hard for a miracle. Because I know that first, I don't know how many hours, maybe the first 72 hours were so crucial for that, as far as whether or not you had a chance. And I know that my parents told me that they were asked if they wanted to pull the plug, because the doctor, and they said, well, my mom just walked away, but my dad stayed and talked with them, and he asked the doctor, what would you do? And he said, honestly, one of my kids could handle it and one of my kids could not. And there was a time when they didn't know if there was brain damage, and my dad was like, no, we know she's in there. So I guess even when I was in this coma, something with my eyes, I don't know. I guess I was my mom came in the room one time and I started laughing. But that's kind of funny. That's kind of typical of our family. We joke a lot. So I've just heard bits and pieces of that. So then it was no, just, because I know they were praying that there was no brain damage. But yeah, as far as what I've been told about that, I don't know a lot. I just know we had to wait for everything to start coming back. And my mom said she was never so happy to see this. I'm just going to say it bluntly. She was never so happy to see me pee on my own because my kidneys came back. Mm-hmm. So stuff like that is the stuff they've that's sounds gross to say, but they were so happy it was another organ that was coming back. Right.
Any signs that there was life and you were coming.
Dialysis. Yeah. Stuff like that. So, but I just, My church was a huge part of it. And I remember going back to church, walking in. It's like stuff like that.
Yeah. When we first came down, Sarah and I drove down to Champaign and we're going in to see you. We went into the hospital, and before we would go into the room, and you're in the coma at this point, that this was the first experience I had where someone had to prepare you just to kind of say, hey, listen, because the last time we had seen you, you were healthy, you were fine. And then walking into the room, obviously, the sepsis and the different things had taken its toll on your body. And when you walk in, the last thing you need, especially when everyone wants you to be positive, to be confident in your praying and all of those things, to not go in there and break down. And like you said, Jamie running down the hall later after the fact. Well, I'm sure those things were taking place while you were in the coma as well. And in that difficult time, my memory of that was going into the room, and this is how I've shared your story multiple times. This is why I wanted to have you on here, but I've shared it in our church as far as the power of prayer and also the power of what God can do in the life of someone. Obviously, you're here, and we're going to get to the amazing things that you do now, which are such a blessing. But this part of the story becomes important to get to that part of the story. When I walked into the hospital room, the way I've always explained this is, so you're a freshman in college, you're the picture of health, you're an athlete, you're fit, you're in shape, and I walked in, and in just the few days that you had been under, your entire body had swollen up to the size of my body.
It was big. Yeah. I have stretch marks from that, and it's just like bizarre. After everything was done and I woke up, I looked anorexic, but at that time I know swelling. They said I had some necklaces on that they had to take off. I loved wearing jewelry, and said they had to get all that jewelry off of me.
Yeah, it was a crazy thing to see, and where, like I said, where you were my size, laying in the bed, and you had always anyway, that was just something that, to me, you just step back and you just see the damage that the sickness had done to your body, And so, of course, we begin praying and we begin going through the processes. And I do remember all of those things. I remember, I think there was a couple, either a couple nurses or a couple doctors, where one would they would do the good cop, bad cop deal, where one would say, hey, you really need to think about, would she want to live like this? And then the other would come in and would say, hey, good signs, good things today, good, kind of playing that positive role. And your mom and dad, especially, your dad too, was always a rock, was always there. And when you said that line about the brain activity, and he said, yeah, she's in there, we know it. I mean, I know for a fact that he was always someone who maintained that, who was positive and always looking for the signs. And so it was a wonderful thing. So it became, as time went on, it became more just give us the good cop stuff. Give us the good news stuff, because that's what we're going to hang on to for sure. So if we fast forward a little bit, 7 weeks goes by, and what are your memories when you first wake up?
Well, when I woke up, I was in Chicago. So, and I don't know how long I had been there, because I know I was heavily medicated. I was told that they gave me medication, sort of like amnesia. So I don't remember that bad stuff because of the trauma that goes with that. So I remember waking up in Chicago in this room, and I was like, as I remembered going into Champaign, I thought maybe like a week had gone by. But when I woke up in Chicago, I was in this weird room. I think it still had like a pretty intense like isolation type door on it. And my hands and feet were wrapped up. The circulation had already been lost. They were hard and they were black, which is a wild sight to see. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't speak because I had the trach, the feeding tube, all these. I just had so many lines hooked up to me. And I was just slowly but surely trying to figure out what in the world had just happened, which I thought was not a long time. So my family slowly eased into the information. You know, they were coming and visiting. I had lots of visitors all the time. And it still, I was so heavily medicated that it's a little bit of a blur. I just remember being frustrated because, I wanted water so bad and I could only have ice chips.
Mm-hmm.
And then every time I tried to get the call light, they kept thinking I need to use the bathroom. I just wanted some water, but I couldn't communicate. And then my dad was like sleeping behind me on what must have been some sort of bed by the wall. I just remember like whacking the side of the bed rail trying to get his attention as he's like snoring away. But because I would wake up at weird times of the night and, you know, want something that I couldn't request. But yeah, we had a board with some of like those alphabet magnetic letters. Mm-hmm. And we were trying so hard trying to figure out what I was trying to tell them with that board. And so that's what I remember in Chicago. And then in a little bit of time, they made it temporarily capped off so I could start talking a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I do remember the first time my mom walked in and I said, "Hi, Mom." And she lost it. Oh, you know, like the first time I had spoken in over 2 months, you know. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was weird. It was confusing.
Did you have any dreams or anything that you can remember when you were under?
No, I have nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just going in Champaign and waking up in Chicago. And then the middle is just this mystery.
Yeah. That's really interesting. And so is it your parents or is it doctors who first share with you everything that had gone on or in the hospital there in Chicago, or what's your memory of that?
More my family. Yeah. And I don't know if they talked outside of the room to just decide that that was the best route. But it was weird because then the second I was like alert, so I was 19. Mm-hmm. And then all of the second was I was alert. It was like, oh, we can't talk. You know how medical stuff is. I'm an adult. And all of a sudden it was like, well, we got to talk to you, even though my parents had just made all these intense decisions for a long time. So there was that kind of weird navigating thing that I was like, no, you know, talk to them about everything. So it was mostly my family. And that's when we had to start getting creative to lighten the mood, you know, 'cause I was there a long time and trapped in the room. So, because I think it was June when I was in Chicago and my surgery started in July, I think. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah. And when you say the surgery started, basically it was to see how much of what you'd be able to keep as far as your hands, feet, and things of that nature, and trying to save certain parts of the body, you know.
Yeah. I knew it was coming because, I mean, it was pretty obvious and it was it's a weird thing to say that I was so anxious for those surgeries because I felt so trapped in my own body that I could not use them. I could not stand. I could not get out of that bed. And I just had get going, move forward on the mind, you know, because that felt like prison. So when I was, I guess, stable enough to tolerate the surgeries, then I had 3 big ones. And it was, first, it was my right leg below the knee and a partial foot, which the doctor did predict was going to happen. Oopsies. What is happening? No.
You're good on our end, so.
Okay, good. Okay, there was just a call. Did it flip my angle?
Nope, you're good.
Oh, okay. Okay. So my first surgery was like I said, the partial foot on the left side, right below knee, which the doctor originally predicted was going to happen. And there was a little more damage than they thought. I ended up having like no toes or heel, which is your balance and your weight bearing. Mm-hmm. And then a wound vac on that foot, which let me tell you is more torture than healing from the surgeries because it had to be changed every 3 days. And oh my word, you probably could have heard me screaming in another town. Mm. And then my second surgery was both my arms below the elbow. My left arm is longer because the damage wasn't as high up, and my right arm is like mid forearm. And then my final surgery was to do the left leg to be like the right one. I had actually gone to rehab and then went back for a weekend surgery because they were going to put that wound vac back on. And it sent me through the roof. And she was like, I can't do this to you. And then they said that it could take like 9 months to heal. And I was not about to do that. Mm-hmm. And it might not ever walk right, you know? So I was like, no way, no.
And so how long, when you go through all the surgeries and you finally get to the place where to put it, there's no other way to put it, to you know what you're working with here, right?
Exactly.
And you get through all the surgeries. How long did that take?
Wait, what do you mean?
So from the first time when they started saying, hey, what can we save, to finally getting to the place now where you know how much they've taken off your arms and your legs and things. Was it months? Was it a year, or how long did that?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. You mean as far as like the healing process,
Yeah.
what I had to work with? I mean, it wasn't long at all, because I got discharged from rehab with my prosthetics. So that was end of June through September 8th, that timeline.
Yeah.
And that was going to be like what my setup was going to be at that point. I mean, like, yeah, they initially were trying to save that left leg, and that was awful. And then when I got the left to be below the knee, like my right side, I was actually able to start healing and moving forward in rehab.
Yeah. So one of the life verses that I have from the Bible that I share with people all the time, and I try to write it in people's cards, is Romans 8:28. For in all things, God works for the good of those who love him, who are called according to his purpose. And, you know, when I think back to that time when you were in the hospital bed, and obviously we had been praying for your complete healing. We had been praying for you to make a full recovery, and for the same Erica who went into the hospital to be the one who comes out of the hospital, you know. And now we've talked about all the things that have taken place and where you are. And is the official term, is it a quad amputee?
Yeah, I'm a quad. Yep.
And now you're in this place, and now you're working with prosthetics, and you're going to have to get to the place where you can put these on yourself.
Yeah.
And, you know, that to me, when I share that scripture, Romans 8:28, this is where obviously all that you've gone through at this point is your strength and positivity and who you are as a person has shined through, right? I share that verse because now this part of the story becomes truly inspirational, because in those early days, how much of a struggle was it to learn how to put those prosthetics on and how to work and do that?
It was. And you see that I use the body powered hooks. I was angry that that's what I was presented with, because like most people ask me, I get all the time, why don't you use the electric hands? Why don't you use stuff like that? I had to learn for myself that these are the most functional, and actually I feel the most confident and have the most self-esteem in them. So, because like an artificial female hand is still not anything near what I used to have, and they don't work like isolated finger movements. But so, and as far as the healing process, so you can't get fit for the socket is the part that's shaped to me. You can't get fit until your skin is healed. And my skin almost presented like a burn patient, and it was kind of open and tender. So I had these like scar treatments and compression garments and kind of open for a little bit. So it wasn't until they were healed that they could cast a mold of my arm or leg to make the socket. So I first had a right leg, then a left arm, then a right arm, and then a left leg. So every stage of getting fit meant new rehab and training and therapy, because just learning to put these things on was like, whoa, you know, but now it's like no big deal. So you see this harness and you're like, I'm supposed to do what with this thing, you know? So I didn't have the best mentality of wanting to use these at first. And I did want to get fit for hands, and I was focused on that. But when I got discharged home, it was kind of like, all right, now it's getting real. I got to actually really like do it to it here, because I don't want to sit on my butt. I want to go back and do something, you know? So, I mean, I was 6 weeks inpatient, and then I did some months of outpatient after that to get used to it. And when like, as my independence grew, so did my confidence to try more and different things.
Yeah. And your ability to learn how to do it, your tenacity, and, just, even just watching you in some of those early days, obviously I wasn't with you all the time, but when we get together as family, and to see you work, going from,
it was hard.
Trying to figure it out to being a full-fledged, knowing how to do it just without even thinking about it. And just putting them on was truly amazing. And it was because you never gave up and were persistent in it. And this is where I want to get to the part of the story of, let me ask you this question. What was your major your freshman year of college?
I was going to be a high school math teacher.
Okay.
I was so stressed out. I wasn't the smart kid anymore.
And then after all this happens and you have learned how to do this and you're getting back in the flow and you go back to school, now what ended up being your degree?
I switched my degree to kinesiology, which is like exercise science other places.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, knowing the plans were going to go to OT school because it covered most of my prereqs.
OT school is what?
Occupational therapy school it's a science major. So, and a lot of people ask, like, what's the difference of PT and OT? And we work very close together in a lot of scenes. Physical therapy is more like the strengthening mobility, those kinds of things. And like I said, there is crossover. And then the OT is more like the activities of daily living, independence in your life. There is the mental aspect of it. We can work in the psychiatric scene, which I did. So it's like the independence with your life skills, like dressing, bathing, all those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
And you can work so many different areas.
Yeah. And to me, that part of your story is so inspirational that you have taken the knowledge, the experiences and the things that you have gone through, and you then decided to go into a field where you could help others who were going through traumatic things and were needing to learn things that seemed far too difficult to learn, but you were living proof that they could do it. And
do it.
And do you have any stories in those days when you first began working with patients, when you first began trying to help others that you experienced that really motivated them, that they could continue on and not quit?
Yeah. Well, it's really funny. I actually learned that I don't want to work with amputees.
Really?
I don't know. I love meeting them outside of work, but I don't know. That's not actually where I felt like I fit. So I did start working in inpatient rehab with older adults. Mm-hmm. And I did find just like connected with these patients, especially because I could understand what it felt like not to be home, to not feel good, to be in pain and stuck in a hospital bed and not do the things you used to do. So there was that connection and motivation without really having to talk about it too much. And a lot of times we were figuring out how to do stuff together. So, I was looking where my limitations might be and where I need help, and we kind of problem solved together. So I learned a lot working in rehab. And then, kind of every stage of life had different scenes for me. I did spend 8 years on an adolescent behavioral health unit. So there was no physical demands in that scene, but, these kids that were dealing with anxiety and depression and feeling like the weight of the world is on their shoulders, we connected on an element. You get it. You've been through something hard. Or some kids are like, all right, I got to stop thinking everything is going so wrong. I know other people have it harder. And my service dog, Charlie, came with me every day to work, and he did wonders for these kiddos with anxiety or anger or those types of things. So then there was that fit. And then as my confidence, because even going to OT school in the first place was a total gamble. I was like, I have no idea how this is going to go down, but it worked. It's an accommodating field, and it worked out. And then now I work in a clinic with little kids who have phased out of early intervention typically. And most of the kiddos I treat have autism. And even the kids that are nonverbal, I feel like we just connect on this level that you get that I have struggles, and we just bond and we have a good time. I'm figuring out stuff. I just kind of acts like a doofus all day long, but it's working.
Well, one of the amazing things, and a long list of amazing things about you, I'm just going to sing your praises because I've known you since you were, I mean, my goodness, very young and a kid. And you've always been a fun, energetic, joking around, just a positive, entertaining person. I mean, just across the board. And I think, and obviously your family's a lot like that too. So
that's how we are.
You've never lost that. You always have maintained that outlook on life. And that's not to say, I'm sure that like all of us, you have moments, right? Where you can feel down. I mean, we're human. Okay. So there are emotions involved in different things, but when it comes to what you project and what you share with people, especially probably working in the field that you work in, to have that zeal for life and that positivity and laughter. Like I love that you said that even in the bed, and when you're in the story, you laughed and your mom, heard that. It's such a cool thing because for those in the family, we go, yeah, that makes total sense.
Right? Yeah. Who knows what? But
who knows what? And so, for me, and just how I view it, just for God to use you in the way that God uses you, and in one side of things, from a spiritual side of things, it is very easy to go back into your story and pray and go, but we prayed for this and we prayed for, and they didn't happen. And so God didn't answer the prayer and whatever it may be. But for me, I can just tell you in my side of it, we prayed for you to live.
Right.
And God answered that prayer. Mm-hmm. And now, in the 19 years that have followed, the story and the impact and I don't know if you're even aware of this at times, of how much of a difference you have made in the lives of people.
That's nice to hear.
Yeah, and your story, and what's so interesting about stories, especially stories of trauma, when you're able to turn around and use that story for good. I share this with people from time to time. Of course, you would have rather never have gone through it, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, but then to turn around and use it for good, and to turn around and use it, to me, God uses you in ways that you don't even understand, to me, becomes the inspirational part of this, that I know everyone in the family loves you for it, because you are, like I said, your mom and dad are a rock. You have become a rock to so many in the family. And so thank you for that. I just wanted to tell you that. You're like, I don't know how to respond to that, but
Appreciate
it. Yeah. And so the occupational therapy, now you've even, all right, before we go into that, let me just say this. At what point do you meet your husband in this story?
Oh, yeah. Ha! I was angry at guys at that point. Now, I should be nice. The guy I was dating, he was there, and he's not a bad guy. That's a lot to take on. And you know what? It ended, and it hurt bad because I didn't see it coming. But you know what? It wasn't meant to be. Yeah. I know that.
It was supposed to be Luke.
It was, I had it all figured out.
That's it.
Really, I thought, okay, I guess I was wrong. But, and it's okay. But I was just like, you know what? Forget this. No one's going to want to date me like this. I don't care. Blah, blah, blah. And so I met some friends, and through random mutual friends, we went on a camping trip that, of course, my dad is a worry word. So he didn't want me to go on this camping trip because heaven forbid something, who knows what would happen, but he thought the worst. And so I went on this camping trip with my friends, hot mess express. And Luke was there, and I had no shame. And I was just like filthy dirty, no makeup. And I'm like, well, because my prosthetics, like sand and my silicone liners, they're not friends. And so I'm like, I'm going to go into the water, but I'm going to leave my legs over here, and I need to get to the water. So he was the biggest guy there, and he put me on his shoulders and brought me to the water. random stranger. And I'm just like, whatever. And then we just kind of hit it off, started talking, we clicked, and he took me out on a date a week later, and we just kept dating for 6 years while I was a student. I was like, all right, we'll give this a chance.
That's awesome. So how many years you been married now?
We got married in 2012, so 12 years.
Yeah. And he works as a police officer, and great guy, fun to hang out with. He's a good guy to have around Aurelio's so that we could crush some pizza together. So, but and you guys have how many kids?
2 kids. I'm not winning the third kid argument.
You're not winning. Okay. Yeah, boy and a girl, and they're fun. A lot of energy as well for them. What's that been like, raising kids?
Well, the hard part of that is Luke's schedule. You know, he works 12-hour shifts. He used to rotate, but now he works nights. I didn't know what to expect with that, because I was like, I'm not going to not have a family. That's just not an option. That is not, I'm sorry, not happening. If I can't wear my legs when I'm pregnant, fine. I can't wear my legs. I don't care. But it ended up being fine the whole time. I was able to go full term and still wear everything. And I worked almost the whole time. So that was good. And then for Lily, who is now 9.5, Luke actually changed every single diaper the first month. He took time off when she was born, and I just focused on like feeding her and stuff like that. But then Michael comes around and he goes back to work right away. It's like, all right, you're fine. But it was, it all worked out. I've got family close by, so I use them if I need to, but I was home alone a lot with them. And it was okay. It was some problem solving, but it came together pretty quickly.
Yeah. You do a great job. Luke does a great job. And you guys are always fun to be around. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And all right. So now in all of this, there's something interesting that you have recently started to do, and it's on TikTok, and looking for ways to share and to help others and post videos, whatever. And the TikTok handle is @Glamputee.
Capital G.
What does it say it again?
Capital G.
Capital G, Glamputee. And what are you doing on there? What videos are you posting?
It's really just educational stuff, because for 19 years I've been asked how I do everything. And, you know, it's hard, especially when you work in this field. You just think, well, you just figure it out. But I guess, I know, lots of people have questions. So I show why I use these prosthetics. I show how I do simple tasks, some fun, goofy stuff, stuff with my kids, like simple meal prep, you know, makeup, how I write, how I put my stuff on. It's all sorts of stuff like that. There's a lot of attention from OT students and other therapists and some other people that are in similar situations, that, because, you know, I was so lucky that our nearest city is Chicago. I went to an awesome rehab center, and that's not always the case. You know, I had amazing OT that I still keep in touch with, and that really does make or break your situation, because you might be set up with something not so great from the start. And I was set up with something functional from the start. Mm-hmm. So it's just a lot of that kind of educational stuff and just daily life type stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's really, it's cool, and it's taken off, and it's helps a lot of people. And I think it's so important, because to be able to see a video and you to do instruction and to show people how you're doing certain things, to see it with your own eyes for those who need that instruction, or even just the lift to see that, hey, Erica was able to do it. Erica was able to learn. She was able to get to this point where she's able to teach others how to do it. It encourages them to say, I can get to that point too. And so I'm sure it's been so helpful to a lot of people.
Yeah. It's been fun with Jamie too. It's something that we're doing together. She always says I talk too much because I can't make them too long. I'm like, my whole career is based off educating. It is hard to be concise.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Jamie's your sister, for those listening who don't know that.
Yes. She's my manager.
She's your manager?
So yeah, we're having a lot of fun, and we're trying to post some fun videos too, because I want people to realize that you can still do fun things. I used to play volleyball and I used to run track. I will say that my heart hurts a little bit about not being able to play volleyball. And that is one area that I am not going to compromise and do differently. It's in this category of how I used to do it and it was good. And I don't want to try it differently. That's just me. I used to enjoy running, but there's other stuff I do in place. Like I love riding my bike. I love doing stuff with my kids. There's a video that I'm on Jamie's four-wheeler. So we're just having a lot of fun,
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's good. It's good.
Yeah. And that's what it's all about, right? I mean, just showing the fun in life and the things that you're teaching, even in that, just the way that you smile and you laugh, and that comes across to anybody who sees your video, and just who you are as a person. And that to me is the most inspirational part of all of it. And so anyway, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any final thoughts before I let you go on here that you'd want to share with anybody who might be watching and maybe going through something difficult, just to put you on the spot?
Put me on the spot. Yeah. I mean, it's even what I would always just spend, when I worked with those kids at the hospital when they were so down in the dumps. You just really have to make an effort to keep your focus on the good things. Cause I've done that where I've gotten caught in a cycle of why this, what if I did that, blah, blah, blah. It's like, stop it in its tracks and focus on the good, because you lose your mind if you go down the other path. Yeah.
Yeah. And then how is your relationship with God through all this in the past 19 years?
I mean, it really hasn't. I think it affected other people more than me, truly. I think it was hard on my brother, and my siblings too. I think there was some bitterness, like, why of all the kids at U of I did I get sick? That's a hard pill to swallow. I don't know if you realize, but that winter when I was on winter break, before I got sick is when I made my profession of faith. So I don't know. I guess I just always have this mindset now too. Like, I know where I'm going, so I'm just going to live it up, it's only going to get better. Even my kids, I mean, shoot, Michael is 7 and he goes, you're going to have hands and feet in heaven. I mean, it's just like the cutest thing ever, Yeah.
That's wonderful.
It's just when times are hard, you have a source that's always there, and it's good.
Yeah. That's great. Well, thank you again so much. I appreciate you sharing your story and just going through all this. And I'm really hoping that for those listening or watching, whatever, that if someone's going through something difficult, they can just see your heart and who you are and the joy that you have, and the life that God has given you, and so many wonderful things, and that there is joy on the other side of difficulty, right?
There is a lot of it.
Yeah. So thank you so much to Erica Tambrini for coming on here, sharing her story. And I would just encourage you, if you're watching, to share this with friends and family, because hers is a story that needs to be heard, because I'm telling you, it truly is wonderful. So thank you so much, Erica. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll be able to see you all soon.
Yes. Sounds good.
All right. So that was Erica Tambrini. And thank you so much for listening to the podcast. We have new episodes coming here every single week. And we look forward to sharing more stories and talking to pastors, talking to musicians, talking to anyone in ministry, and those who have inspirational stories to help others. So we will see you next week on the Josh Huisman Podcast.